Okay, this is lab 1.1. It's the first lab you'll get in the CAD methods class. It's project 4-4 and it's on page 160 in your book. It says right here, project 4-4 electrical schematic, and we're expected to draw these electrical schematics. So it says right here, start a new drawing, use the AutoCAD DWT template. So what all a DWT template is another type of drawing file, right? So I could rename that AutoCAD.dwt to AutoCAD.dwg and still have, I could just open it up in AutoCAD and it would be a regular drawing. Now, our other directions here, draw the electrical symbols using the line, circle, and arc command. So we're going to do that with these commands up here. I'll get to those in a second. And then we get a little hint right here. Each square is equal to 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so what am I going to do with that? So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come over here to AutoCAD and use this big gray button here to start a new file. But I'm supposed to use this AutoCAD.dwt, right? So I can click on the templates and pick which template I'd like to use. I can create my own templates, but it's right here, the AutoCAD DWT. That's the default template. I'm going to hit start and loads up my AutoCAD. Now, these are my draw commands. I can draw a line, a polyline, a circle, an arc. These are fundamental shapes that you'll use your entire career to use AutoCAD or in just about any drafting package. Next, we have the modify commands. Well, anything we put on the screen, we can change with the modify commands. And then we'll get to some of this other stuff here later. Now, we got this hint. Each grid square is 1/8 of an inch. So what you should do first, I suggest you type the D settings command. So D settings, and this is going to bring up a bunch of stuff for us to customize what we're doing. I have snap. Snap lets me move across the screen in specific increments. So if each one of these squares is 1/8 of an inch, and I'm kind of looking at what's going on there, I'm just going to set this to 0.125. That's 1/8 of an inch. And because this was checked, they are both set to 0.125. I'm going to turn my snap on. And then my grid is already turned on. I can see it right here. I'm going to set that to 0.125. And that's the X spacing, and I'll set the Y spacing to 0.125. Now, right here, display grid beyond the limits. The limits is like specifying the area that you want to work on. You can use it, you can not use it. We're going to get to that in some other lesson coming up down the road. But I'm going to turn that off because right now, with it checked, that means the grid will cover the entire universe. It covers everything. I can always see the grid. But when I uncheck it, it will restrict that grid to just the area that I want to work in, which will be my limits. So I got an 1/8 inch snap and an 1/8 inch grid, and I don't want it to display, the grid to display beyond the limit. So I'll say okay. Now if I just click the mouse wheel, I can just pan that over. You can see my grid. Now I set my snap and I said, well, my snap lets me move in 1/8 inch increments. I'm going to zoom in with the mouse wheel here, and you can see the cursor doesn't look very restricted. It moves cleanly across the screen. So this is what I'm going to do. Over here, I'm just going to draw this line. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 5 more. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to type line, and that'll pull up the line command. You can either type it or use the tool, the ribbon tool in the ribbon here. I'm going to say enter. Now you can see that my cursor, that crosshair will only move on the grid line because I restricted the snap to 1/8 inch and I set my grid to 1/8 inch. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I have my first line. Then I can go click here, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't really matter what you pick. And I can just start clicking around because it will always snap to that grid line. Now you can see there I tried to draw a line and it grabbed a corner I didn't want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say escape and it'll go away. So let's say you were drawing it and you already clicked and you didn't want that. and I'm clicking, I'm clicking, I'm clicking. So I'm going to hit escape. Anytime I get stuck and it's doing things I don't want to do, I'm going to hit escape and make it stop the command. Next thing, I need to get rid of all this stuff because it's just not what I want. So I'm going to erase it. I'm just going to, you can either click it individually, or you can click and drag a window and hit enter, and it'll all go away. Now, why did that go to the wrong place? You saw me do it twice. Why did that go to the wrong place? Well, that's because there's some other stuff going on in the background called running object snaps. Now, we don't really need that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit F3. You can see right here, F3, object snaps off. Object snaps are points on lines that we'll get to later. So now, I'm just going to draw a line from here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And I now have this picture. It was really that easy. Now let's look at this one over here. It's the same length, right? So I'm just going to come down here. I'm going to click and drag all the way across. Oh, look, it didn't quite, I missed it. It didn't quite go one square. So if I just click it, I can grab that node on the end, or it's not a node, it's a grip. Grab that grip on the end, make it hot, and pull it over one. Now I have one line segment going from end to end. Now, let's look at this thing. I've got a couple little arrows going in both directions and a square. So I'm going to draw a line, just like I did before. And you see I'm on the same grid line as that other one. Does it come up and over and down? And I have my grid. Now, I have this piece in the middle I need to get rid of. You could either use this tool here, trim, and underneath it there's one to make things longer. Trim makes it shorter, extend makes it longer. So what I suggest, once you have this, you just TR, trim. Now here's the trick, enter, enter. And then just pick the line you want to go away. And that'll go away in there. Now, let's draw these arrows. And it looks like they're one grid square off of the box. That's okay. So I'm going to roll my mouse wheel in here. I'm going to pan over a little bit so I have that centered on the screen. Now, I'm going to just draw a line. Or let's use the ribbon. Click that and draw a line. I'm going to go click, click, click. Now, I'm still drawing that line. So I could either say enter or I could say escape. Let me do that again. Line. From here to here to here, or escape. Then I'll do the other side. From here to here. Oh, I didn't get it. There to there. Or line, line. Now, there's no line. If you look here in the symbol, there's no line between the symbol. So I'm going to go up here to trim. Now, if I just pick it, that's not going to work for me because that's not really how the trim works. But for right now, if you just use the trim, so trim, enter, enter, that will allow you to pick between those 2 points. All right. So let's do this one. Now you have a couple of choices. You could use the arc command or you could use the circle command. But if we use the circle command, we're going to have a lot of different trimming we're going to need to do. I'm going to kind of pan over here because I want this to look just like that. And I'm going to come up here. Now out of the construction tools, this is probably one of the more complicated tools because when I pick on arc, I get all these points. So which one do I want to use? I could define the start, the center, the end. I could define the start, the center, the angle, the start, the center, the length. You know, these are just different points on the arc. It's like, how do I want to define it? So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to define the start end radius. That's my favorite. So it's 2 grid spaces for that arc. So I'm going to go click here, here, and then the 1 grid space up in the middle. See, that doesn't look quite right. does it. So I'll just drag that out there. Now, because I have my snap set, I can do that. I can grab that point. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer so that I can see that happen. Let me try that again. So I'm going to say arc, and I'm going to say start end radius, and I'm going to go click, start, end. I'll come up here. Now see, I came straight across. Don't pick where the arc would end. Just come straight across so you can get that full grid spacing. And click. Now, you need to pay attention to which way your start and your end start. So for instance, if I say start end radius, and I pick from the bottom up, now my arc's going to go the other direction. And see, it's not going to want to go that way. So the direction in which you pick the start and the end point for your arc, that's important. So it looks like I got 3 grid squares here for a line, so I'm just going to say line, click, 2, 3, and escape. Arc, start end radius, and you can play with these any way you like. So let's see which way this is going to go. So I'm going to go to this line, I'm going to go 1, 2, and I'm going to drag it up. I'm going to drag it down. So you can see this isn't matching my diagram in the book because I started here and I ended here. So I'm going to do that again. Arc, start end radius, click, second point, drag it up. Now when I do the arc, start end radius, I'll start from the left, go to the right, and drag it down. And you can see I have that S shape. And my symbol is coming together. So then I'm going to say line, 1, 2, just like the book shows. And I'm going to say line, and I'm going to draw that arrow. And I'm going to draw it, click, click, click. And I can do that so quickly because my snap is set. And the grid just gives me a visual reference on what's going on. Oh, I didn't draw that quite right, did I? There's a full square between those two. So I'm going to draw a line from here to here to here. And I'm just going to select these because they're wrong. And I'm going to hit the delete key on the keyboard and they're going to go away for me. And then I got 2 squares and a vertical line. So I'm going to go 1, 2, escape. And I'm going to go 1, 2, escape when I draw that line. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Now, I've got this long symbol. I've got something here. Maybe part of a switch that they didn't finish drawing. I'm not sure. So let's take this and draw a line. I'm just going to go ahead and draw this all the way across. That's going to give me a chance to use some of my other commands. So I didn't really count that. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's a circle. So I'm going to zoom in here with, put my cursor where I want and roll the mouse wheel in. I'm going to say circle. Now circle, you have 2 choices when you draw a circle. If I click it, get radius or diameter. Now, there's some of this other stuff here. We can get to that later. But right now we have radius and diameter. So a radius, you can kind of see on the symbol, is half the distance across the circle, and a diameter is the total distance across the circle. So it doesn't really matter which one we're going to pick. So I'm going to pick diameter. Now I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to drag this out. Now it's snapping, and I'm drawing a diameter. So I'll click that and say 0.125. And I have a circle. That's 0.125. Let's do that again. So I'm going to say circle. And you get these choices down here at the bottom of the screen. 2 point, 3 point, and we're going to get to that some other time. Today we're just going to put a circle. We want to pick the center. So it says specify the center point of the circle. I'm just going to pick it, and I'm going to drag it out. Now my snap is set, and you can see it won't get any. The last one I drew was an 1/8 inch diameter, but you can see right here, specify the radius. It wants to know what the radius of the circle is. Now I could put 0.625, or I could say D for diameter, hit enter. Oh, right there. It already knows. So I'm just going to hit enter, escape, and hit enter, because the last circle I drew was a diameter of 0.125. So now this does not look like this, does it? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come up here to my trim, and I'm just going to trim, enter. So I hit once, so enter again, click it, and now I have that gap. But that doesn't look quite like that either. That looks like the line goes to the middle of the circle. So you can just click it and make that grip hot, click it, and drop it in the new spot. So click the line, make the grip hot by clicking it, and then move it over to that next spot. And now that looks like that. I'm going to draw a line, 1, 2, and then there's another line. There's 3 lines here. It looks like they're all the same length. Right here. Looks like there's no line between the two. So again, I'm going to type TR for trim, enter, and just get rid of that. That's easy. Okay. So here we have a little bit of a problem. If you can see this right here. In your book it shows that those lines are between our grid spacings, but when I'm trying to draw a line, it's on the grid spacing. That's easy. Let's go back to our D settings. Change our snap spacing to 0.0625. So it was at 1/8 of an inch, now it's at 1/16 of an inch. And there it is. Make sure they're both the same. Say OK. And 1, 2.5. So I'm going to go 1, 2.5. And it's a little taller. Oh, that's not what I want. It's a line, 1, 2.5. It's a little taller. And you can see now I can snap between the grid spacings. And the next one is a little shorter. And the next one is a little shorter than that. Oh look, and this one is not long enough, so I'll click it and drag it longer. So that's going to let me then trim, enter. Now when I do this trim, what it does is it lets me shorten things, but you have to have something to shorten it to. So if I were to trim these out, I couldn't trim this one because it's a whole line segment. There's nothing to trim it to. So if I start on the right and go click, 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 they're all gone. Alright, that's great. What do we have done now? I'm going to zoom, extents, and that's going to zoom out to the size of my part, and then I just rolled the mouse wheel back. Next, we have a ground symbol. Okay, so that's no big deal. I'm going to draw a line, and I'm just going to draw down, and I'm going to draw across, making sure that they're the same distance, and I can see that they're not. See, I got 1, 2 grid squares, I got 1, 2, but this one extends past a little bit. So I'm just going to click that and make it hot, drag it over. There's a grid square between them, so I'm going to come down. Now the book shows a grid square between them, but I have a half a grid square twice, so that's the same thing, that's okay. And then this other little line, click, click. And it's really just click, click, and because I have my snap set up, it's all just fine. So I'm going to pan over. What's this one? Okay, we've got some lines and a couple of arcs, so I'm going to zoom in. Always, it's better to zoom in where you're working so you can see what's going on. Don't try to be way out here and try to work with those fine numbers. Just you have all the space in the world to zoom in and zoom out. So what I'm going to do, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a line from here and just draw it all the way across. Yep, that'll work good. And then it shows right here that it crossed 2 grid squares. So I'm going to come up 1 and come down. Okay, so this is a little bit of a problem now. A lot of times we need to draw extra lines that we just end up deleting called construction lines. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a line from here down, and it doesn't matter how far down because I don't need this bit of line right here, but I need this and I need this. So once I draw this line down, I've created 2 points, an intersection here and an intersection here. So what that's going to let me do is do a trim, enter, click, and that goes away, and then click and hit the delete key, and that goes away. What do we got here? 3 grid squares. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. That's going to be right here. I'm going to come up to my arc. I'm going to do start end radius. So I'm going to do a start, 1, 2 grid squares, end. Oh, and look at that. I did it the wrong way again. That's okay. That happens all the time. So escape, because you can see it arcs up then down. So I'm going to arc, start end radius, and I'm just going to pick from this side, from right to left, and then drag up until you see it create that full 1/8 inch right there. So that's really a 1/4 inch diameter and 1/8 inch radius. So let's do that again. Arc, start end radius, from this point to this point, and then just bring it down, hit enter, or pick, and you're done. And then we got a little bit of line. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a line from here down. Now that's just going to be a construction line, and I'm just going to trim, enter, enter, pick, 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 and then pick, select this one and hit the delete key, and then it all goes away. Now I've got 6 of my 10 or 12 symbols here. We're almost done. We have this one. This one's pretty easy. This one's used to draw where wires would cross over each other, but they don't connect. So this is simple. I'm just going to draw a line from here to here. Piece of cake. I'm going to come back up here to my arc. You know what? Let's do a circle. And I'm just going to pick anywhere on the line, and I'm going to drag it out so that it's a 1/4 inch diameter. So it's an 1/8 inch radius. So see here, it takes up 2 grid squares, and we take up 2 grid squares. So then I'm just going to trim, TR, enter, enter, pick, pick, and then that's done. Then we have a circle. So I'm going to type C for circle. I'm going to pick, zoom in here, and I'm just going to drag that out so it's a 1/4 inch, and they show just a line going through it, so I can just draw a line from click, click. And then underneath it, we have another one, circle. I'm going to go down one here. And they want us to draw a little face. That's okay. So I'm going to click and drag that up so I can zoom in around it. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to draw a line, and you can see I'm kind of restricted with my snap because I'm so close. There's one eye, 2 eyes, and then a little mouth. Now you see, I can't, that's going to be a pretty wide mouth. Is that what they show? That looks like what they show. So when I zoom out, and if you wanted that to be smaller, let's say you wanted that to be a little bit smaller, you can go back to your D settings. Whoops. D settings. And figure out the math. So this is an 1/8 of an inch. This is a 1/16 of an inch. So let's say you wanted to know what half of a 1/16 of an inch would be. You'd say 0.0625 divided by 2, 0.03125. So take that number, 0.03125. Whoops, I didn't. Oh, I did. I wasn't sure I put that in both boxes, but I got the check box selected. So now when I zoom in here and go to draw my line, you can see my mouth is now restricted to a 32 of an inch. He's got some long eyes though. That's okay. Now I've got some other things to draw, so D settings. Maybe I might suggest doing that happy face last. I want to set this back to 0.0625 because that's just it makes more sense. So here we go. A triangle with 2 lines. So I'm just going to draw that line straight across. Now I want to kind of make sure this is symmetrical, so be a little bit careful. That's a pretty good triangle. Trim, enter, enter, click. the length of these lines don't matter, but if that's bugging you for some reason, you can always just click on it, make that grip hot, right like that, click on it, drag it over. Look, we got one more to do. Looks like 2 small circles, and I'm going to zoom in a little closer here. So I'm going to say circle, click, and they're going to be small. And it looks like there's 3 spaces between them. So line, nope, no line. Let's say circle. 1, 2, 3. Make that the same size. Now, my snap should hit the center of that circle. So I'm going to say line from there. And what this is showing, this is a switch. It needs to make sure that it goes at least above the middle of that circle. So that represents an open switch. Now, if I zoom out, that's it. Now to give you some directions to your study guide, will give you some directions on how to name it. And you'll want to say something like, right here, save. And you'll want to give it something like, it'll be like lab 111. You have to look at your study guide for directions. Part 1, project 4-4. And then I'll put my initials. Now, one thing I do want you to do, I want you to see it says right here, save as a DWG. A lot of your study guide says, send me a PDF file. You can send me a PDF file if you like, but I can't grade it as easy as your DWG. I can't help you as much. So the PDF function is up here under the big A, the big AutoCAD A. You're going to say export as a PDF. So you don't need any additional software to create the PDF. And that right there completes Lab 1.1, Project 4-4 for the CAD Methods class.